like there was firing on security guards of White House in Washington. An Afghan immigrant was arrested. Immediately, Trump announced that Muslim Brotherhood would be declared a terrorist organization and ordered freeze on Third World immigration. U.S. terror attack. Trump reacts after National Guard soldier dies, pays tribute in call to troops.
Millions of Americans are praying for those heroes and their families, and I must unfortunately tell you that just seconds before I went on, right now I heard that Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person, started service in June of 2023, outstanding in every way. She's just passed away. She's no longer with us. She's looking down at us right now. Her parents are with her.
Zero gratitude, says Trump. In a lengthy Truth Social post, Trump accused Ukraine's leadership of zero gratitude towards US's efforts in ending the war. He also slammed Europe for continuing to buy oil from Russia. Zelensky's thank you, America post after Trump's zero gratitude rant. Ukrainian President Zelensky thanked the United States and President Trump for their support during Geneva peace talks. The meetings come amid tensions over a U.S.-drafted peace plan seen as favoring Moscow.
Now, President Trump weighing in earlier today on social media, writing in part, Ukraine leadership has expressed zero gratitude for our efforts, and Europe continues to buy oil from Russia. The USA continues to sell massive amounts of weapons to NATO for distribution to Ukraine. President Zelensky responding in a statement saying, quote, Ukraine is grateful to the United States, to every American heart, and personally to President Trump. President Trump is pushing for peace deal by Thanksgiving.
Like, Zoran Mamdani stood straight like an obedient schoolboy in his meeting with Trump. Nothing wrong, just informing.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay, you can just say yes.
Okay.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind. We just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well, and I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against a lot of smart people. I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am. I will say there's no difference in party, there's no difference in anything, and we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Please.
I appreciated the meeting with the President, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the President, I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
Ukraine-Russia peace deal.
The Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine has reportedly agreed to a deal to end the war with Russia. In a post on social media, Ukraine's National Security Secretary wrote that the delegations had reached a common understanding on the core terms of the agreement discussed in Geneva. He added that Ukraine is looking forward to organizing a visit of the Ukrainian president to the US to complete final steps and make a deal with US President Donald Trump. Zelensky, remember, had earlier said that more work needed to be done. The development also coming at a time when diplomats from the United States, Ukraine, Russia converged in Abu Dhabi for urgent talks over a draft US peace plan.
Oil prices sink as Ukraine agrees to peace deal. Oil prices is likely to drop below $60 per barrel, following reports that Ukraine has mostly agreed to a peace deal with the US. The agreement, which still has minor details to be sorted out, was confirmed by a US official and a statement from Ukraine's Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, Rustem Umerov. Like, Putin has said no settlement with Ukraine is possible, without Ukraine surrendering some of its territory to Russia. Might is right. Putin is coming next week.
Значит, мы до сих пор получаем заходы о прекращении боевых действий там. Войска Украины уйдут из занимаемых ими территорий, вот тогда и прекратятся боевые действия. Не уйдут, мы добьемся этого вооруженным путем. Вот и все. Да. Вы понимаете, вот я сейчас вот вам скажу, темп движения наших войск по этим всем направлениям увеличивается заметно. Но вот я сейчас просто не хочу совершать какой-то ошибки такой по количеству километров, но из месяца в месяц количество, так скажем, возвращаемых нашими войсками территорий на всех основных направлениях увеличивается. То есть темп движения войск увеличивается. Но самая, на мой взгляд, главная проблема для противника заключается в том, что у них растет разрыв между потерями и количеством военнослужащих, которые они в состоянии направлять на линию боевого соприкосновения. Вот. Я первый раз отказался, потому что это действительно я ничего не придумаю. Как раз и к этому надо добавить еще и дезертиров. Дезертирство очень большое, и оно, это видно не только из наших средств массовой информации, из сообщений Министерства обороны, это видно и из западных средств массовой информации. Удержать это практически невозможно. Госпиталей.
Putin to visit India for annual summit on December the 4th and 5th.
India has announced that Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to undertake a state visit to Delhi on the 4th and 5th of December for the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. The visit will present an opportunity for the leaders of the two nations to not only take the extensive India-Russia ties forward in areas like defense and energy, but also take up global and regional issues of mutual interest, such as the Ukraine conflict.
The last annual India-Russia summit took place between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Vladimir Putin in July 2024 in Moscow. Now it's the Russian leader's turn to visit Delhi. According to India's Ministry of External Affairs, the Russian president will pay a state visit to India from 4th to the 5th of December. The visit is at the invitation of Prime Minister Modi. It will mark 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. President Putin will hold talks with Prime Minister Modi during the visit. President Draupadi Murmu will also receive the Russian leader and host a banquet in his honor. The visit will provide an opportunity for the leadership of India and Russia to review progress in bilateral ties. It will set the vision for strengthening the special and privileged strategic partnership. It will also provide an opportunity to exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual interest.
World leaders defy US boycott to summit in Africa. G20 declaration adopted unanimously.
US President Donald Trump has boycotted this year's summit over unsubstantiated claims that South Africa is pursuing anti-white policies and prosecuting its Afrikaners minority. The White House called plans to draft a declaration shameful.
Session 1 will focus
But on the ground, many leaders pushed ahead with business.
Fragility in the Middle East, rising threats of authoritarianism and fragmentation, as well as Russia's ongoing unjustified war in Ukraine. The shockwaves of that invasion are still reverberating through global markets today.
The British Prime Minister met with other leaders on the sidelines of the summit, discussing how they should respond to a US peace proposal for Ukraine, which critics say leans towards Moscow. In an unusual move, leaders adopted their joint declaration on day one, despite the noticeable absence of the G20's largest economy. Under heightened security, world leaders arrive in Johannesburg for the first G20 summit on African soil. The host nation has set out an ambitious agenda for this year's talks, focusing on climate change and confronting global inequality.
The adoption of the declaration from the summit sends an important signal to the world that multilateralism can and does deliver. It tells the world that as the leaders of the G20, we will keep fast to our solemn pledge to leave no person, no community, and no country behind.
The G20 summit adopted a declaration on its first day to address the climate crisis and other global challenges. The declaration was drafted without any inputs from the United States of America, with the White House saying South African President Ramaphosa was refusing to facilitate a smooth transition of the G20 presidency. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa told PM Modi, "Thank for the support India gave to South Africa in hosting the G20. You should have told us, it is such a difficult task, maybe we would have run away." Ramaphosa said South Africa had closely watched India's stewardship of the group in 2023. "We have learned a lot from your hosting of the G20 and yours was spectacular, building ours is really small," he said. PM Modi immediately replied, "Small is always beautiful." India hosted the 18th G20 summit at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi in September 2023, when the African Union was added as a permanent member of the group.
South Africa has used this presidency to place the priorities of Africa and the Global South firmly at the heart of the G20 agenda. Building on the developmental agenda of previous presidencies in Indonesia, in India, and Brazil, we have prioritized the issues that matter most to developing economies. I now say that this gavel of this G20 summit formally closes this summit and now moves on to the next president of the G20, which is the United States, where we shall see each other again next year. The summit is therefore closed.
South Africa and G20 2026. Trump blocked South Africa from the 2026 G20, citing alleged abuses against white Afrikaners and a ceremonial dispute. Pretoria rejected claims, emphasizing sovereignty and continued G20 engagement.
Moving on, US President Donald Trump has announced that South Africa would not be invited to next year's G20 summit in Miami, taking his diplomatic offensive against the country to a next level. Now, Trump cited what he described as horrific human rights abuses endured by white farmers and South Africa's refusal to symbolically hand off the G20 presidency at the end of this year's summit to the US. Now, on Truth Social, the US president said South Africa has demonstrated to the world that they are not a country worthy of membership anywhere.
Friedrich Merz, Chancellor, Germany said,
As far as the G20 summit is concerned, I regretted that the American government was not present in Johannesburg last weekend. The American government is needlessly relinquishing influence, including influence in a part of the world that is becoming increasingly important. And I will try, in my discussions and meetings with the American president, to convince them that it would be good to invite all members of the G20 to America when we host the G20 meeting there, because this is one of the most important multilateral formats we still have in the world. And in my view, the G7 and G20 are formats that should not be made smaller than they are without good reason. They are important, and I will of course accept the American president's invitation, but until then I will try to convince him to invite the South African government as well.
davon zu überzeugen, auch die südafrikanische Regierung einzuladen.
You are watching Sanglikar's Weekly. Like volcanic eruptions in Ethiopia have invaded skies. Airlines are on alert. But airlines are also on alert because of Trump's threats to Venezuela. Ethiopia volcanic eruption live updates. Plume of ash reaches Delhi and Maharashtra, flight operations affected. Akasa Air, Indigo and KLM were among the airlines that cancelled some flights due to the ash plume issue on Monday. India may face major flight disruptions as ash from Ethiopia's Haile-Guba volcano, erupting for the first time in nearly 12,000 years, drifts across the country after rising 14 kilometers into the sky. Ash clouds are moving from Rajasthan toward Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh, prompting DGCA warnings about severe risks to aircraft engines and runway safety. Indigo, Air India, and Akasa Air say their teams are closely tracking the situation with international aviation bodies to ensure safe operations. After Ethiopia's Haile-Guba volcano erupted for the first time in nearly 10,000 years, it has triggered aviation warnings across India. Multiple carriers, including Indigo and Akasa Air, have also modified their schedules. Like, an entire high-rise complex was gutted in fire in Hong Kong. 75 reportedly died and 280 are missing. No fire safety measures in China too. Hong Kong building fire. Hong Kong building fire that has claimed 75 lives spread swiftly. The role of construction materials that may have contributed to the fast spread of flames has come under scrutiny.
Massive deadly fire breaking out at a high-rise in Hong Kong.
Yeah, good morning, Robin. At least 13 people are now known to have died in this high-rise fire in Hong Kong, and police say there are still people trapped inside the building. This is a huge housing complex of some 2,000 apartments. More than 4,000 people live here, and the bamboo scaffolding on one of the 31-story tower blocks looks to have caught fire and is causing the flames to spread. Thousands of residents are now being directed to local shelters. The fire department was first alerted at 2:50 p.m. local time. By 6:30 it became clear how serious this was, and the alert level was raised to a category 5. This is the most serious fire in Hong Kong in nearly 20 years. Now, bamboo is very common at construction sites across Asia, but Hong Kong authorities actually said only this year that it would be phased out for public projects because of safety concerns.
Fake news. French Navy slams Pakistan media over misinformation on Operation Sindoor, calls Rafale claims fabricated. The French Navy criticized Pakistani media for publishing what it described as misinformation and disinformation about India's Operation Sindoor, after one outlet claimed a French officer had confirmed Pakistani air superiority and the shooting down of Indian Rafale jets during a border confrontation earlier this year in May 2025. The French Navy has publicly slammed a Pakistan-based media outlet for circulating fake claims about India's Operation Sindoor and alleged air clashes after the Pahalgam terror attack. A Pakistani channel falsely claimed a French commander had praised Pakistan's air force and even confirmed that Indian Rafales were shot down, a narrative Paris has completely rejected. The Marine National exposed the fabricated report, clarifying that the officer in question, Captain Yvonne Launay, never made any such statements and never consented to any publication. France says the report botched his name, misquoted his presentation, and twisted a technical briefing into a propaganda storyline. According to the French Navy, the Pakistani outlet's claims represent deliberate misinformation and disinformation, aimed at altering perceptions of India-Pakistan military capability. Paris reiterated that Captain Launay's real role is simply commanding the Landivisiau Naval Air Station, home to Rafale marine jets, and he made no remarks on India-Pakistan combat scenarios. Like, France's ex-President Sarkozy's appeal against jail sentence is dismissed.
Et s'ils veulent absolument que je dorme en prison, je dormirai en prison. Mais la tête haute. Je suis innocent.
The former French President Nicolas Sarkozy will be going to jail. It is a very big decision by the justice and a very big change for France. The very first time that a former president will actually do hard time in jail. Remember that Nicolas Sarkozy, who was the French president between 2007 and 2012, already has a couple of criminal convictions under his belt, becoming the first former French president to get a custodial sentence back in 2021, but he'd been allowed by the judge to wear an electronic bracelet at home. That had to do with allegations that in 2014 he had bribed a judge. And this was a trial over accusations that back in 2005, starting from 2005 and into 2007 when he became president, that he had concluded a secret deal with Muammar Gaddafi of Libya at the time to receive financing for his 2007 presidential campaign, successful as it happened, in return for, it was alleged, the diplomatic favors of France once he took office. What the judge ruled today was that he was indeed guilty of criminal conspiracy, that plot had indeed existed. And what the judge has, in a rather surprise ruling, adjudicated is that Nicolas Sarkozy, even if he appeals, which we expect that he will be serving time in jail. And that is a big deal here in France. As I say, the very first time a former French president has actually physically been inside jail. And I think a significant moment, no doubt, for the French in terms of the impunity that many former political leaders had enjoyed so far.
Peru's ousted president, Pedro Castillo, has been sentenced to 11 years in jail for rebellion.
And Peru's former president, Pedro Castillo, has been sentenced to 11 years in prison for a failed coup bid. The verdict comes a day after court sentenced another former president, Martin Vizcarra, in a graft case. Often called Peru's first poor president, Castillo was a former school teacher and trade unionist. He came to power in 2021 on a promise to uplift Peru's poor. But in December 2022, he dissolved Congress to avoid impeachment following corruption charges. However, his attempted coup met with resistance from within his own government. Castillo was eventually impeached and jailed. In its ruling, the Peruvian Supreme Court convicted Castillo of conspiracy to commit rebellion, but it acquitted him on separate charges of abuse of power and disturbing public order. The former president's supporters began a protest shortly after the Supreme Court's announcement of its verdict. His opponents, however, welcomed the verdict.
Like UK's £26 billion tax-raising budget by Rachel Reeves has created a storm in UK. Reeves was continuously trolled. "Do you want to write my obituary?" asked Reeves.
Britain's autumn budget is being perceived by many as a tax-heavy plan that has reportedly left many British families worried, frustrated, and also asking whether the system is working for working people anymore. On Wednesday, the UK government unveiled its 2025 autumn budget, which increases the tax burden while promising long-term deficit control. But many Britishers are saying they are paying the price right now.
Like with India's snub on Arunachal and Japan's snub on Taiwan, China is cozying up to USA.
Now, India has launched a sharp diplomatic protest with China after a woman from Arunachal Pradesh was held for over 18 hours at the Shanghai Pudong airport.
Chinese immigration officials declared her Indian passport as invalid because it showed Arunachal Pradesh as her birthplace. Prema Wangjom Thongrok was passing through Shanghai on her way to Japan. When Chinese immigration officials, they refused to accept her travel documents. She said that the officials stopped her from boarding her flight despite her valid visa.
In fact, when I tried to question them and ask them what was the issue, they said Arunachal is not part of India very clearly. And they said, you should apply, and started mocking and laughing and saying things like, you should apply for Chinese passport. You're Chinese, you're not Indian.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has added to tensions with Japan over a remark on Taiwan made by its new Prime Minister, calling it shocking. Wang is now the most senior Chinese official to comment publicly on the issue, which has shaken relations for more than 2 weeks. In a statement posted on the Foreign Ministry's website on Sunday, Wang said Japan was crossing a red line that must not be touched, accusing Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi of attempting to intervene militarily over Taiwan, and that it was shocking for Japan's leader to openly send a wrong signal. Takaichi was responding to a question in Parliament on November 7th over a hypothetical Chinese attack on Taiwan when she said it could trigger a military response from Tokyo. Beijing views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take control of the island. Taipei rejects Beijing's claims and says only the island's people can decide the future. On Friday, China raised the issue with the United Nations Secretary-General, vowing to defend itself. Japan dismissed Beijing's complaint to the UN as entirely unacceptable, saying its commitment to peace was unchanged. In a Sunday statement, Wang said China must resolutely hit back over Japan's move. He threatened to dredge up its warring past if it, quote, persists in its wrong course, saying people have the right to re-examine Japan's historical crimes. After the G20 leaders summit on Sunday, Takaichi did not comment on Wang's statement, telling reporters only that Japan remained open to dialogue with China. Beijing had said the two sides would not meet at the gathering in South Africa, which Takaichi confirmed. The dispute has led to the Asian neighbor's biggest crisis in years, hitting trade and cultural ties as well. China is Japan's largest export market after the United States, buying about $125 billion of Japanese goods in 2024, according to UN trade data. Like Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh's ousted PM, is sentenced to 21 years in jail on corruption charges. This sentence comes after death penalty for genocide.
আবারও সাবেক প্রধানমন্ত্রী শেখ হাসিনার বিরুদ্ধে ২১ বছরের কারাদণ্ড দিয়েছে আন্তর্জাতিক আদালত। ঢাকার বিশেষ জজ আদালত চূড়ান্ত রায় ঘোষণা করল। ৩টি দুর্নীতি মামলায় সাবেক প্রধানমন্ত্রী দণ্ডিত। একই সঙ্গে তার ছেলে সজীব ওয়াজেদ জয় এবং মেয়ে শাইমা ওয়াজেদ পুতুল প্রতিজন এক একটি মামলায় ৫ বছরের কারাদণ্ডে দণ্ডিত।
Crowds cheered as the 78-year-old former Prime Minister of Bangladesh was sentenced to death today. Sheikh Hasina was found guilty of crimes against humanity after authorizing a violent crackdown on student-led protests last summer. Young Bangladeshis stormed her house, leading her to flee the country and head to India in hiding. The UN estimated 1,400 people were killed in the anti-government protests, mostly civilians shot by security forces. This leaked audio appears to show Sheikh Hasina authorizing those shootings.
You are watching Sanglikar's Weekly. Like, after India's dismal Test cricket 2-0 defeat against South Africa, news of Lakshya Sen winning Australian Open Badminton Championship has brought smile.
Indian star shuttler Lakshya Sen has been crowned the champion of the men's singles event in the Australian Open 2025 on 23rd November. Now, Sen defeated Japan's Yushi Tanaka in a one-sided final to clinch his first title of the ongoing 2025 BWF World Tour.
Like actress Selina Jetley has leveled serious harassment charges against her Austrian husband Peter Hogg. If true, charges are chilling.
Bollywood actor and former Miss India Selina Jetley has moved a Mumbai court against her husband Peter Hogg. Indian actor Selina, known for films like No Entry, has accused her husband of domestic violence. She has sought a compensation of 50 crore rupees. Hogg is a hotelier born and brought up in Austria. Earlier today, the former Miss India and Miss Universe runners-up shared a post where she opened up about the most turbulent storm of her life. Jetley confirmed that a domestic violence complaint has been filed for all the atrocities and abandonment faced by her. The actor, who started her showbiz journey as a model, has accused her husband of continuous acts of abuse, including cruelty, manipulation and physical violence. She has sought compensation for suffering, loss of income and shared property. The actor has also requested the court to direct the husband to pay her monthly maintenance. The case came out for hearing on November 21st before a judicial magistrate in Antheri, who issued notice to Hague. The case will be heard next on December 12th. In her plea, the 47-year-old actor claimed that her husband stopped her from working after marriage and robbed her of financial independence and dignity. For those unaware, Jet Li and Hague got married in 2011 in Austria. The couple welcomed twin boys in March 2012, and 5 years later, she gave birth to a second set of twins, one of whom died due to a hypoplastic heart. Recently, the actor had moved to Delhi court seeking assistance for her brother, who was reportedly detained in the United Arab Emirates.
And finally, a leader of Mahayuti in Maharashtra said, "Remember, I am the leader, but I don't know which way my followers are going." Lazy Bee. 29th November 2025.